Picture a rapper who's cheated death twice, scares dictionaries for fun, and can rhyme orange with door hinge faster than a power drill. Yet his most jaw-dropping twist unfolds in total silence, miles from any stage. Keep watching, because the 20 revelations ahead will shatter everything you thought you knew about Marshall Mathers. 1. Midnight in suburban Detroit is normally as silent as new snow, but on one April night in 2020 a shadow crossed the Mathers estate, slipped through a kitchen window, and padded down the hallway toward a closed bedroom door. The alarm was off, the guard fast asleep. What the prowler didn't know was that Marshall Mathers is a lifelong light sleeper. He jolted awake, opened the door, and found a man whispering, "I'm here to end you." The rapper's reaction wasn't a scream, it was a stone-cold stare and a quiet, "Come with me." He marched the invader into his own living room security detail, bought himself a coffee while the cuffs clicked shut, and went back to bed. 5 years later, that same intruder, Matthew Hughes, was handed up to 18 years behind bars, and M never wrote a bar about it. The home invasion face-off is hardly the first time Eminem has stared mortality down. 2. Christmas Eve 2007. An overdose of prescription pills stopped his organs so thoroughly that doctors warned manager Paul Rosenberg. 2 hours later, and he was gone. The waking nightmare that followed meant relearning how to speak without slurring and how to write without pills. M says he keeps the hospital wristband in a shoebox as a reminder that every gig since then is theft from the grave. 3. To keep death at the door, he started outrunning it literally. On a junkyard treadmill set to 10 miles per hour, the man who once dozed off in studio chairs began logging 17 miles every single day, frying 2,000 calories before lunch, and watching the scale fall from 230 pounds to a wiry 149. He confessed later that he wrecked his hip flexors, yet the ritual replaced narcotics with runner's high and left him too exhausted to relapse. Before treadmills and stadium lights, the proving ground was a dank basement called The Shelter, tucked beneath St. Andrew's Hall in downtown Detroit. Friday crowds packed shoulder to shoulder, sweat fogging the concrete ceiling while Marshall and his best friend Proof traded verses so fierce other MCs swore the mic got hotter with every punchline. A Grantland oral history says 90% of the time the winner was either M or Proof, and when one stepped in, the other stepped out. Two apex predators refusing to eat each other but happily feasting on anyone else brave enough to grab the mic. That weekly furnace forged the cadence you hear today. The Shelter was less a venue than a boot camp where syllables were ammunition and lost battles felt like street corner funerals. 4. Recovery came with bling. He commissioned a diamond-studded sobriety triangle pendant said to cost nearly $500,000, then hurled it into the crowd at a Milton Keynes festival during a moment of manic liberation. Whether the fan who caught it still owns it is a mystery, but the chain that replaced it weighs 2.5 pounds, an anchor reminding him that the past is heavy, but it can't drag him down unless he lets it. 5. Redemption took an unexpected duet. After years of being labeled homophobic, Slim Shady invited Elton John to share the Grammy stage. They hugged on live television, swapped jokes, and later Elton received a wedding present most couples only joke about: twin diamond-encrusted rings from the rapper who once rhymed every slur in the dictionary. Sir Elton calls M his brother from another mother. Marshall calls the singer the bravest guy I know. What most fans never saw is how that hug grew into life support sobriety. Elton John became Marshall's unofficial sponsor, phoning every week in those fragile first 12 months of detox and mailing anniversary sobriety coins engraved with the date M quit pills. In a 2024 BBC chat, Elton recalled one 3 a.m. call where the rapper confessed he was minutes from relapse. The pop legend stayed on the line until sunrise, talking about stage fright and grandson diapers, anything to keep Shady distracted. Eminem later told Zane Lowe, "If Elton hadn't answered, I might not be here." Their friendship is now 16 years deep, sealed by diamond rings on Elton's mantle and a hotline that still lights up on each of their sober birthdays. 6. But even public growth didn't stop every lyrical misfire. In 2018 Tyler, the creator trashed Revival, and M fired back with a cutting F-slur. Replay after replay gnawed at him until embarrassment outweighed bravado. 1 year later, he delivered the first public apology of his career, admitting in an interview that the barb was too far and killed the vibe. It remains the only time he's ever said sorry on record to appear. 7. Ego, however, never left the garage. Parked alongside Studio B sits a $410,000 Ferrari 599 GTO, a Porsche Carrera GT that can outscream any Marshall stack, and a 700-horsepower Lamborghini Aventador painted the color of an open wound. Friends say he times verses against quarter-mile splits. If the Aventador hits 60 faster than he can spit 8 bars, the bar needs rewriting. 8. Speaking of speed, Guinness certified rap god for packing 1,560 words into 6 minutes, an average of 4.28 words every tick of the second hand. Listeners trying to keep up on Genius.com have given up and started counting syllables instead. 9. Then he broke his own record. On Godzilla, he detonated 225 words in a 30-second detour, 7.5 words every heartbeat, or a syllable chain faster than a sewing machine needle. You can see the official Guinness frame on his studio wall, hung next to his daughter's kindergarten art projects. 10. The charts bend the knee, too. With 2020's music to be murdered by, Eminem became the first artist ever to debut 10 consecutive albums at number 1, a clean streak beating legends in rock, pop, and country alike. Billboard editors said the stat may never be matched in the streaming era. 11. Outside the Billboard bubble, the Recording Industry Association of America etched his dominance in platinum. 3 diamond albums and 3 diamond singles, 6 10 million unit awards no rapper has ever touched. At 227.5 million certified units, he sits behind only the Beatles, Drake, and a handful of classic rock titans. 12. Not all trophies are physical. In December 2021, Slim Shady dropped 123.45 ETH, about $452,000 at the time, on board Ape Yacht Club number 9055, whose khaki army cap and disinterested glare look suspiciously like the Shady logo. Blockchain sleuths counted 166 NFTs in his wallet within weeks, ranging from punk pixelations to rare sneakers nobody can actually wear. That simian purchase quickly morphed into a stage prop. When MTV rolled out the 2022 Video Music Awards, Eminem and Snoop Dogg cracked open a virtual wormhole, performing their single From the D to the LBC as their BAYC avatars inside a neon metaverse. Viewers watched the pair flip between human and cartoon while a giant joint drifted overhead, proof the ape wasn't just an investment, it was a portal to the next performance medium. 13. The digital flex is backed by analog obsession. When 60 Minutes asked how he bends language, he casually flipped open a paperback Merriam-Webster, explaining he once memorized whole pages as a bored kid so no beat could paint me into a corner. Then he rhymed orange with door hinge on camera just to prove there's no such thing as an impossible word. Cooper's camera then tilted toward the floor, revealing plastic tubs crammed with dog-eared notebook pages, each scrawled with half-lines, broken multis, and arrows that link venom to punchline. Marshall calls it his rhyming pantry. So stuffed, he once joked, it weighs more than his platinum plaques. 14. Hollywood wanted that mind on film, but M's Detroit loyalty trumped all. Director Neil Blomkamp offered him the lead in 2013's sci-fi thriller Elysium. Marshall's lone demand: shoot the movie in his hometown. The studio balked, so he walked, and Matt Damon strapped on the exoskeleton instead. Fans still daydream about an alternate universe where Slim Shady fought space fascists between studio sessions. 15. He made up for the lost screen time by hijacking the grandest stage in cinema. With no prior announcement, the 2020 Oscars cut to black, the opening guitar lick of Lose Yourself slid in, and the crowd turned into one giant raised eyebrow. 17 years after he'd blown off his own Oscar win, the man stormed the Dolby Theater, spat every syllable, and earned a standing ovation that even Billie Eilish couldn't outscream on Twitter. Downloads of the 18-year-old track doubled overnight. 16. Courtroom drama nearly matched the box office. Back in 1999, his mother Debbie sued for $11 million, alleging defamation. 2 years later, a Michigan judge awarded her, wait for it, $25,000. Legal fees devoured all but $1,600. Eminem later quipped that he spent more on headphones than on that lawsuit. 17. Cameos kept calling. In 2024, friend and executive producer 50 Cent lured him onto Starz' crime saga BMF to play notorious teenage FBI informant White Boy Rick. Under a peroxide wig and era-accurate mustache, he fired off a single-episode performance that had Detroit Twitter posting split-screen comparisons between the rapper and the real Rick Wersch Jr. Long before streaming shows, he'd already lent his voice to pixel violence. In 2005's 50 Cent, Bulletproof, he played Detective McVicker, a growl-voiced cop barking orders at 50. The sessions meant hours of looping gun grunts and street-slang quips, yet developers say every line landed in a single take because the Cadence King treated even a joystick cameo like a live cipher. 18. Off-camera generosity stays almost secret. Tax filings show the Marshall Mathers Foundation sprinkling 5- and 6-figure grants to Detroit hospitals, disaster relief drives, and mental health programs. One 2023 ledger lists $50,000 to Henry Ford Health System for impoverished children. Yet you won't find a tweet about it, because he insists that charity loses power when you count the likes. 19. When he does go public, it's usually over pasta. Mom Spaghetti, the brick-walled walk-up off Woodward Avenue, opened with Eminem himself slinging cardboard boxes of noodles and red sauce through a tiny service window. He spent hours grinning for selfies, rare proof that the man who vowed never to smile on camera might relax for carbs and a pun that made him immortal. Long before the restaurant had a neon sign, he'd been feeding the city. In April 2020, as COVID mauled Michigan, Slim quietly shipped trays of Mom Spaghetti to nurses and doctors at Henry Ford Hospital, each carton stamped with a heart and the Shady initials. Photos of exhausted ER staff clutching pasta boxes hit Twitter, and for once, even the snarkiest replies read simply, "Thank you, Slim." 20. The toughest verse he ever wrote is still Dad. Eminem legally adopted niece Elena in the early 2000s and later took in Stevie, Kim's child from another relationship. In March 2025, biological daughter Haley Jade welcomed a son named Elliot Marshall, turning the onstage menace into a doting granddad who now tests lullabies over subwoofers and jokes that diaper changing is the only beat he still struggles to catch. So the next time someone says Marshall Mathers peaked 2 decades ago, remember the intruder who didn't scare him, the Guinness records that still fall, the diamond rings gifted to a night of pop, the Oscar crowd he ambushed, and the grandson who just learned to giggle at headphones bigger than his head. The count sits at 20 jaw-droppers, but with Shady, the next shock is always one heartbeat, one syllable, one perfectly timed, orange rhyme away.